You guys, so this is a follow-up video to the one that I did a couple of weeks ago about the Amazon Prime series Them. At that point, I was able to see the first two episodes before the show in its entirety premiered, but since then, Amazon has dropped it. I've seen the entire season, the first season of this anthology series, and I wanted to get into my thoughts about what I felt about it. Let's talk. So when I left off in the last video, the family was just kind of getting into this all-white neighborhood in Compton. They had moved in. They were starting to realize that things were not going to be what they thought it was going to be. The dad was being introduced at work. The kids were starting to almost go to school, and the mother of the house was starting to realize that the women in the neighborhood, the people in the neighborhood, but specifically the women in the neighborhood, were not happy that they were there. And so that was the first two episodes, and then we went into the third. And it's funny because for me, like I said in the last video, the first two episodes was a lot to unpack, a lot to unpack. And I was really hoping that they didn't just throw the entire kitchen sink in the first two episodes and that it would kind of taper off as it went along. I was thinking, like, how are they going to sustain this kind of suspense and this kind of intrigue throughout these 10 episodes? But for me, it got better as it went along, and I was surprised at that. I felt like after the fourth episode, actually, each episode started to build on itself, and I felt like we got into the territory of it being like a real series and not just a flash in the pan and not just something, for the eye or just kind of like cheap frills and thrills and chills and all that kind of stuff. We got into a real legitimate story, and I was happy to see that. And as I said before, the other characters started to emerge. They started to have more of character development. I felt that the story just got more interesting as it went along, and I became more intrigued. And I actually went through the next 6-7 episodes back to back. I didn't stop. I just went one after the other. And so I was really happy to see that it got better. One of the things that I didn't like, and I won't give anything away because maybe you guys haven't seen it in its entirety yet, but Betty, which is the main white character who wants the family out, she's at the forefront of that. What happens to her in the end, I don't know if I love that. I can't say that I love that. I love that something happened to her because she deserved it. However, I don't know if what happened to her is something that I would have written in. And not that I'm a writer, I'm just a critic, but I would have wanted to see her, something different happen to her. Her downfall to be a little bit different than what actually happened to her. So that was kind of like my only little about it. Other than that, I thought it was good. I thought the daughters as well really stepped up to the plate in the last maybe 4 episodes. The performances, the commitment to these characters and the commitment to these scenes and to these intricate details that were written, by Little Marvin, Lena Waithe. It became a real season of something that I was proud to say that I watch and I complete it and I can recommend and I can tell people about. And knowing that it's an anthology series, right, and that will continue and carry on, that's also intriguing as well. It was really good. Have you guys seen it yet? I never really want to give spoilers away because not everyone has seen the entire thing. A lot of you commented on my last video, which you can go and check out, and that you have seen it, you came back to it. But for the people who haven't seen it, and are comparing it to certain things like Us and Lovecraft Country and things, yes, it's similar to those things, but I was happy to see that this grew its own legs and walked on its own. It didn't rely on those things. It didn't fall back on being compared to those. It really emerged into something that was good on its own. It could stand on its own, it could fly on its own, and it can be considered, it can stand next to those other shows as opposed to standing behind them. So let me know if you guys have seen it. Again, I enjoyed it. If I'm giving a rating, which I always kind of do, A, B, C, D, or F, I would give this a solid B. I recommend seeing it. You will, there's horror involved in it, but horror is also because of the truth, right? The scariness or the uneasiness that comes from this show is because it is weighted, and it's weighted in truth. And that's the sad part to think about it, because, people of color, specifically Black people, have gone through something like this for years and are still going through it. But back then it was at the height of that, of those type of things. And so to watch this and to see that some of these things really happen, a lot of these things really happen, is just, it's sad, but it's also educational, because you need to know that everyone needs to know that, there's a reason why these TV shows are made. And it's not just to remind us that this happened, but it's also to make sure that we never forget how far we've come. And of course, how far we still have to go. So check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you guys have seen it, I was here for it. The Bojangles character, everything. I really, really enjoyed it. So I'm happy to say that. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Let's discuss it.